Hi, I'm Linda Whitworth from the Alberta Barley Commission. Today we're going to make rustic apple pie using our easy barley pie crust recipe. The reason it's called easy is because we're going to make it in the food processor. But if you don't have a food processor, a bowl and a pastry blender will work just fine. Before we get started, I want you to know that I have preheated my oven to 475 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, to get on with our crust. I have 3/4 of a cup of barley flour, a 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, and 2 tablespoons of sugar. Because we're making a sweet pastry, we're using our sugar today. It's optional in the recipe, so if you want to make a quiche or another savory dish, just omit the sugar. I'll just give this a whir to incorporate those ingredients. And now I'm going to add our butter, 1/4 cup of cold butter that I've cut into chunks, and we'll just keep it going until it resembles coarse breadcrumbs. So you can see that consistency. Now I'm going to add my water. I have ice cold water and I'm going to put it in a tablespoon at a time. The reason we use cold water and cold butter is to help keep our pie crust nice and flaky. The best way to keep it flaky is to let that butter stay in nice firm little balls, which then will develop when it's cooking and leave the holes, which causes the flakes. So I'm going to add my water 1 tablespoon at a time, just until my dough pulls away from the edges of the food processor. At that point, we can stop. Depending upon the humidity of the day, you might need more or less water in the recipe. We're just about there. There we go. You can see that our dough is starting to come into large clumps and pull away from the edges. At this consistency, I will be able to put it in a nice ball. Just take our dough and we'll form it in a ball. Another hint, if you want to get to this point and wait until you roll your pie crust, you can wrap it in clear plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for up to 4 or 5 hours. I have our dough in a nice ball. Now I'm going to sprinkle my counter with a bit of barley flour so that hopefully it won't stick too much. A little bit more on top. And we're going to roll it into a circle as close to, 14 to 16 inches as possible. What we're trying to do is get a nice large piece of dough that we can fold over the edges of our apples in our pie plate. Just gently work from the center out in all directions. Try and keep it in as close to a circle as possible. A little more flour so that your rolling pin doesn't stick. And we've got a lovely aluminum pie pan. Now you can use any type of pie pan, but using an aluminum, it conducts the heat really, really well, and you're less likely to get a soggy crust when you use an aluminum pie pan. I think we've got this about the right size. So find a nice flat knife that you can slide underneath your pie dough and loosen it from your counter. And then we'll fold it in half, finish loosening it, and gently lift it into our pie pan. Now, give it a little bit of a shake so that we've got it all the way around, and hopefully it'll drape over your pie pan really well. Now, I'm going to make our filling. I've got 6 to 8 large apples that I have peeled and sliced, and use any type of apple that you like for apple pie. A Granny Smith will be a little more tart, but any of your favorite apples, especially as they come into season, are delicious. I'm going to mix this with 1/2 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of barley flour. Barley flour is an amazing thickening agent. It will give the sauce that comes out of the apples. The sugar will release the juices of the apples, and the barley flour will thicken it up just really nicely. It gives a lovely, lovely consistency. And a teaspoon of cinnamon. So we just put that all in with our apples and give them a stir so that they're all nice and evenly coated. There we go. I think that's looking pretty good. And see that cinnamon is nicely coated those apples. And then we'll gently put them into our pie plate. The nice thing about doing a rustic pie is it doesn't have to be perfect. Your dough doesn't have to be perfect. It actually gives it a lot more interest if it's a little bit ragged. It kind of is more like an apple tatin. So get those folded in, give them little darts if they need to, and then take a little bit of milk, brush those edges with the milk. And sprinkle some coarse sugar around the edges. This will give it a little bit of extra color and sweetness just on the edges of our pie crust. We'll pop it in our oven for about 15 minutes at 475, then reduce our heat to 375 and cook it for an additional 35 to 40 minutes until the apples are tender. By doing it at the high temperature first, that nicely cooks the bottom of our pie crust so that it doesn't get soggy. Our rustic apple pie is a beautiful golden brown color and has some crystalline sugar to give it that nice finish. I'm cutting a piece now after I've let it cool. Letting a pie cool allows the filling to set up so that it doesn't fall apart when we take it out of the pan. I'm going to try a little piece now and see how it tastes. Visit us next time at gobarley.com for more delicious recipes. Fantastic.